fire came from the Lord and destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. It's been called the greatest mass rape ever attempted. A conspiracy theory says it was an alien invasion, and some scholars insist it never happened at all. Today, we unveil the truth behind the shocking destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. What really happened there? In the shadow of towering mountains, hidden away in a far-off land, there was a valley where life blossomed abundantly, known as the Jordan Valley. This region nestled between the mountains of Moab and the Dead Sea was a lush paradise in a desert world. Flowing with milk and honey, it was a place of great natural beauty where the sun kissed fertile fields, bringing forth bountiful crops, and the river Jordan meandered gracefully through its heart. But beyond its breathtaking landscapes, the Jordan Valley was home to 5 infamous cities whose names would echo through the annals of history as symbols of ultimate corruption and utter destruction. Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, Zeboim, and a little town named Zoar. These 5 cities were known for their wealth, their power, and their wicked ways. Their inhabitants were not just traders and farmers. No, they were a decadent lot, a community of voluptuous revelers, self-indulgent hedonists and power-hungry tyrants. Their lives revolved around one thing: pleasure. Whether it was indulging in the finest food and drink, throwing lavish parties, or simply basking in the glow of their own importance, these people lived for the moment. They chased after luxury and comfort, and they did so with a total disregard for the suffering of others. Their obsession with pleasure knew no bounds. They reveled in the finest wines, the most succulent meats, and the most exquisite delicacies. Their feasts were legendary, attracting not just fellow citizens, but outsiders as well. They oppressed the poor, exploited the weak, and delighted in causing pain to others. Violence and injustice were commonplace. Their parties often descended into debauchery, and their revelry was stained with cruelty. And yet, amidst all this wickedness, there was a strange disconnect. They lived completely unaware of their own doom, blissfully ignorant of the judgment that loomed on the horizon. And this judgment came in the form of 2 strangers, 2 figures who would test the very limits of human depravity. Among these 5 cities, the most notorious were Sodom and Gomorrah. And it was here, in the heart of this wickedness, that the divine spotlight turned its harsh glare. In the Bible, specifically in the book of Genesis, chapters 18 and 19, we read about the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. But let's take a closer look at this pivotal moment in history. The story begins with God expressing his profound sorrow over the wickedness of Sodom. He states, "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is indeed great, and their sin is very grave. I will go down now and see if they have repented, for if I found them repentant, I will relent, and through them I will show mercy. Otherwise, I will know." And with that, God set out, accompanied by 2 angels, to investigate the matter personally. Abraham, who had been entertaining 3 heavenly visitors, heard of God's plan and couldn't help but bargain for the city. He pleaded with God, saying, "Will you destroy the 50 righteous within it? Will you destroy the 50 righteous within it and also the 50 innocent? Do you therefore afflict the righteous and the innocent along with the wicked and the evil? If you find 45 righteous in the city, you will destroy the whole city." And God agreed to Abraham's terms. But when the angels arrived in Sodom, they soon realized there weren't even 10 righteous people in the city, much less 45. With that, the divine verdict was passed and the clock began ticking for the doomed city. But before the final curtain call, the stage was set for a dramatic showdown. The angels disguised themselves as mere mortals and made their way to Sodom under the cover of night. The men of the city, driven by lust and fueled by the devil's whispers, laid siege to Lot's house, demanding that he bring out his guests for their gratification. Lot, horrified by their depravity and desperate to protect his guests, offered his 2 virgin daughters instead. But the men refused, intent on having their wicked way. In that moment of crisis, the angels intervened, striking the men with blindness and pulling Lot inside his house. With his guests safe, Lot warned the men of Sodom, urging them to flee with their families. "Flee for your lives," they cried. lest you perish. For what are we? We are merely travelers, and besides, it is early in the morning. Therefore, this is what the two messengers said to the men. Now, therefore, flee to the mountains, lest you be consumed from above and from beneath. However, Lot's sons-in-law, lost in their own sinful pursuits, treated his warning a joke. They scoffed at his words, failing to comprehend the gravity of the impending danger. And as the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, the angels urged Lot once again, this time taking his hand, his wife's and his daughters, guiding them out of the city toward the mountainous terrain. Lot, with his family in tow, began to run, guided by the flickering light of the distant flames. Behind him, the smoldering ruins of Sodom and Gomorrah rose against the ash-filled sky, a haunting reminder of the fate that awaited those who lingered too long in the face of divine retribution. As the sun ascended higher in the sky, the full extent of the devastation became clear. Nothing remained of the once prosperous cities but smoldering ashes, a testament to the sheer force of the divine judgment. The sulfur stench hung heavy in the air, mingling with the acrid smoke, making it difficult to breathe. All around were the charred remains of buildings, homes, and workshops. Fields once filled with ripening crops were now scorched and barren. The river Jordan, which had flowed through the heart of the valley, was transformed into a sluggish, steaming trickle. Amidst this desolation, the small town of Zoar stood partially destroyed, but still bearing witness to the catastrophe. The hills surrounding Zoar bore silent testimony to the events of the previous night. Here, Lot and his daughters had sought refuge, gazing back at the fiery spectacle that had consumed their former home. Zoar itself, though scarred by the cataclysm, still held remnants of life, a stark contrast to the complete annihilation of Sodom and Gomorrah. Yet even in this place of partial survival, the specter of death loomed large. Lot's wife, overcome with a longing for her former life or perhaps for the familiar comforts of Sodom, turned back against the explicit command of the angels. In that moment of disobedience, she was transformed into a pillar of salt, forever trapped in her petrified gaze upon the smoldering ruins of her past. And so it was that the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah met their end, reduced to ashes and cursed to serve as a perpetual warning against sin and rebellion. The only physical evidence of their existence today is the Dead Sea, which bears the name of the destroyed cities, and a few archaeological finds that point to their sudden and violent demise. And yet, despite the historical uncertainty, the story continues to echo throughout human history, serving as a cautionary tale about the consequences of unchecked sin and the ephemeral nature of earthly pleasures. It reminds us that no matter how powerful or prosperous we might be, our cities, our institutions, and even our souls can crumble into dust if we stray too far from the path of righteousness. The moral lessons embedded in the narrative continue to resonate. God's patience may have limits, righteous influence matters, delaying repentance can be fatal, and warnings ignored lead to ruin. In conclusion, while the historical authenticity of Sodom and Gomorrah might be debated, the spiritual significance of their story transcends time. It serves as a potent reminder for all generations to guard against the allure of unrestrained pleasure, the dangers of unchecked societal corruption, and the absolute necessity of heeding divine warnings. The story challenges us to examine our own hearts and the state of our societies, urging us to seek righteousness, justice, and compassion as guiding principles. It's a call to remember that while God is indeed merciful, He is also just, and that the pursuit of earthly pleasures without regard for ethical boundaries and human dignity can lead to spiritual and societal ruin. Ultimately, the legacy of Sodom and Gomorrah serves as a timeless parable, a beacon urging humanity toward wisdom, virtue, and a life lived in harmony with divine principles. So I ask you, what do you think? Did these cities exist, or were they just a myth? Have you learned any valuable lessons from their story? And how does this tale continue to be relevant in today's world? Feel free to share your thoughts and insights in the comments section below. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history and faith. Until next time, May you find wisdom, enlightenment, and peace in your own journey of discovery.